What do you think about Beagle recall? Yeah, some of you are probably having a bit of an anxiety panic attack by me even mentioning the fact that we should get our beagles off lead. Should, probably a very strong word. That's not the right word. We shouldn't get them off lead, but we can try to get them off lead. Now, there are going to be very many variables why some of you won't be able to, but most of you, with a bit of confidence and a bit of training, beagle training, you'll be able to get them off leash. So in the US in particular, the beagles' genetics are still very, very strong, very much hunters. And so some of you may have actually got puppies from hunters, and also some of you may have adopted puppies or beagles from a local shelter in the US where they were previous hunters, or you think that they were hunters. They maybe were found on the side of the road. Now, they probably will never be able to come off lead. Their hunting instinct is extreme. You know, they are pulling, their noses are constantly down. So if you look at a UK beagle, like if you look at my girls, their noses are not down permanently. They will sniff and they'll put their heads up a little bit, trot, 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 sniff, 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 trot, trot, trot. When you watch an American US beagle, they are just nose down constantly. So those types of beagles very rarely can go off lead, especially if they were a hunter in a previous life. You just don't want to do that. You also can't stop the barking, the baying and the yipping, I'm afraid. That, again, is also something that's bred into the beagle, so that when they're hunting, they make that noise. It alerts the hunter that they're onto a scent and they track, and then they follow the noise. So those are really, really hard to work with. When it comes to domesticated beagles, so in the US there are domesticated beagles. They usually are show line. Same here, we have predominantly domesticated beagles. So that means that they've been generations and generations of being domesticated, and so their hunting instinct is still there, but it's not as strong as a hunter. They are more likely to be able to come off lead at some point, but the circumstances all have to align. The stars have to align. I can't get my girls off as much as I used to because I live in Guernsey now, and there's bunnies here, which is obviously the beagle loves bunnies, and we don't have any foxes, and so there's no natural predators, and so there's a lot of bunnies on the island. Whereas when I lived in Hertfordshire, not the same, and I could get them off more. So predominantly I let them off on the beaches here, which is another good place to let a beagle off. I think, you know, both of them have gone off at some point whilst I've lived here because they've got a smell or a track. So when we look at beagle recall, we look at their age, because age makes a massive difference. We look at the time of the year, because there is a hunting season, and Daisy is mad as a box of frogs in hunting season. And then also weather. So certain weathers will affect their recall. So wet, damp, windy weather, beautiful hunting weather. So yeah, again, that's probably not a great time to let them off. But also you need to look at your location, because beagles will not stop at roads like a Labrador might go, oh, there's a car. Nope, they are tunnel visioned. They are programmed to not focus on any distractions, and they will just go straight across that road. So you have to be very careful about roads. I can only let them off from the beach when the tide is way, 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 way out, because all of our beaches are near roads. And then it's about how they want to recall. So traditional beagle training is all about, traditional dog training is all about using a word, a phrase, a whistle, whatever it is, and that is how you recall, and it's based on obedience. So obedience is something most other breeds will have in them, because they're bred to take instructions and come back and do something for the human. Beagles not so much. They don't have a recall gene. And so we have to work out what it is they want to recall to, and we do that through using long lines. Yes, I know you don't like long lines, but that's because you are not using them properly. I can pretty much guarantee. And so I show you how to use a long line so that it's not faffy, it's not getting tangled, and you don't get pulled off your feet. It can actually be quite an enjoyable walk when you know how to use the long line properly. But we need to use the long line so that we can work out what it is that they do. if they see something, do they try and sprint after it? Do they look at us? Do they freeze? Do they respond to this word, this whistle, this phrase? And we have to work that out, and that can take a little bit of time. So long lines are your new best friend, because you also need to train them to do certain things when you see a dog. You don't go running over, you look at me and then I let you go over. Little things like that. That's why the long lines are such a good thing. And you want a pretty long one to start with. I always recommend 20 meters to start with, because that's the kind of area that beagles will want to stay within, and that's the area we want to trust them in as well. And so I only really work on recall when they get to the end of that 20 meters. If they're going to just mooch around and stay within my vicinity and I'm not at the end of that long line, then I don't recall them. Because again, if you over recall a beagle, they're like, for the love of God, will you stop recalling me? Can you not see I'm trying to sniff this thing? And so they'll stop coming back. So when I recall train, I might only recall them anything between 2 and 4 times in an hour's walk. So it's not that you know, when you're doing recall training, traditional recall training, it's about doing it constantly and getting them to come back and hide behind a bush and all those kinds of things. But you have to think very differently. You have to think like a hunter when you are training them in recall. So you have to be the human hunter, they're the pack. You have to think like that, not the traditional way of doing recall. And so we are actually heading into a period of time where recall training is the best. We are heading out of hunting season, which tends to be at the end of April, as long as May becomes quite warm and dry, because if it stays wet and damp, it will carry on. And the reason it is so good in the summer months is because the heat will stop the bunnies and any kind of little creatures from coming out in the day, and they stay underground. And so there's not that many scents around, and there's not many fresh scents for them to track and chase. And also, because it's hot, they don't want to run around as much as normal. So they are much better to train from about May through to August. Then when we head back into hunting season, around the end of August, September, you will have to be very selective again about whether you let them off or not. So I teach all of this in my recall training. And you don't need your beagle for this, because I'm just going to show you some videos. I'm going to show you and I'm going to talk you through some of the things. It's almost like a checklist that you need before you can consider letting your beagle off lead. So you hit all of those points, brilliant, freedom, off you go. If they don't hit all of those points, then it's long line for the rest of the walk. So, and then I'll teach you how to recognize when they will recall better. So you will have a 90% chance of recalling if you just know some body language. Because most of us will try and recall them when they are running off after something. No, it's never going to work. Or if they're tracking, you know, you can definitely tell when a beagle's tracking. We panic. Oh God, come back. That's never going to work. So you need to look at their body language, and when you know that, you can pretty much recall them. Not all the time, because you've got to wait for that body language. But when you see it, bingo, poof, off they come. If you want to come to training, I'm doing a live session so that at the end you guys can ask me some questions about your own recall and your own issues and your own problems. This Thursday, 11th of April, is UK 6 p.m. and if you live in the US, let me see if I can get this right, so it's 1 p.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. Central time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Wow, I think I remember that correctly. Whoop whoop. If you can't make it, don't worry, it's going to be recorded and everyone will get a copy of the recording so you can go over the learning. But I'm also going to include some free training which you can get immediately when you sign up. So one of them is teaching you how to stop your beagle pulling, because if you can't get them off lead, you want them on lead and you want to enjoy your on lead walk. So you're going to get a 2-hour training session on that, which is recorded and ready to go. But I'm also going to send you some training around barking out windows, garden barking. You want to reduce these considerably, because most of the time our dogs are barking because they're guard barking, which will flood them with stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. You try and train with a beagle outside when they're full of stress hormones, they ain't gonna work. So we need to reduce that so that you have a better walk and you have a better training session. And then also I'm going to send you a whole lesson on body language. So not just recall body language, but all body language in general, because if you know 3 simple body languages that a dog gives off, we could cut biting down by 99%, you know, because a lot of the time they are screaming at us, don't do that or I'll bite you, but we just don't know it. So I'm going to send you that as well. So the link is in this post. Sign up and you'll get the recorded stuff straight away. The live session's on Thursday. If you can't make the live session on Thursday, you'll get the recording within 48 hours of that going out as well. And let's see how many beagles we can get off safely this summer. My girls will be off a lot more in the summer. I'm really looking forward to that because I love seeing them off lead. So yeah, see you Thursday if you're around. Bye bye for now. Happy beagling.